In a tweet from the UK's Ministry of Defense, it has been confirmed that Russia has used thermobaric weapons, also known as vacuum bombs, in Ukraine. It said the TOS-1A uses thermobaric rockets to create incendiary and blast effects. But in these war conditions, why is Russia's weapon of choice drawing so much international attention? These thermobaric weapons are particularly controversial because they are much more devastating than conventional explosives of similar size and have a terrible impact on anyone caught in their blast radius. In this video, we'll be discussing the medical effects of thermobaric weapons on human beings in urban centers. How horrendous can the blasts from these weapons be? And how can the military and first medical responders manage the damaging effects this weapon will have on affected people? The very first and rather comprehensive information we have about thermobaric bombs is from a very helpful paper published back in 2000, over 20 years ago, titled A Crushing Victor: Fuel, Air Explosives, and Grozny 2000. The anatomy of the thermobaric bomb consists of a fuel container with two separate explosive charges. The fuel container, which serves as the shell of this weapon, is filled with a combustible liquid or fuel, sometimes with ethylene oxide. In the center of the shell are the detonating charges. The weapon can be launched like a rocket on its own or dropped like a bomb from an aircraft. When it hits its target, the first explosive charge opens the container and widely scatters the fuel mixture inside of it. The first detonating charge effectively distributes the combustible liquid throughout the atmosphere in the vicinity of the initial explosion. This would appear as a cloud of dust or a cloud of mist, but what it is a cloud of explosive material. With the air around the bomb saturated with this fuel mixture, a second charge then detonates the cloud, resulting in a huge fireball caused by the instantaneous combustion of the fuel in the air. Directly following is a massive blast wave in a vacuum, which sucks up all the surrounding oxygen and is capable of vaporizing human bodies in the area. The pressure that is generated from such a bomb is on the order of 427 pounds per square inch. To paint a quick word picture, our car tires are usually inflated to around 30 pounds per square inch. The temperature of this blast reaches about 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, about half the temperature of the surface of the sun, which is about 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Additionally, the velocity at which this pressure wave travels is about 6,700 miles per hour. With such amounts of pressure, heat, and speed, this is easily one of the most dangerous non-nuclear bombs in the world at the moment. This weapon is so powerful that some experts consider it to be at the same level as a low-level nuclear weapon. Thermobaric weapons are used for a variety of purposes and come in a range of sizes, including weapons for use by individual soldiers such as grenades and handheld rocket launchers. However, huge air-launched versions have also been designed and are often used as missiles that can destroy bunkers or defensive buildings. These versions are specifically designed to kill defenders in caves and tunnel complexes. The effects of the thermobaric weapons are at their most severe in enclosed spaces. So where there are heavily reinforced concrete foundations, these types of weapons can destroy them, and this weapon has been used by many countries, including the United States during the war with Afghanistan, where the bunker buster missiles were used just like this to destroy those defensive positions. In 2003, the US tested a 9,800 kilogram bomb nicknamed the Mother of All Bombs, or MOAB for short. 4 years later, Russia developed an even more powerful thermobaric weapon, which they nicknamed the Father of All Bombs. This bomb created an explosion equivalent to a 44-ton conventional bomb, making it the biggest non-nuclear explosive device in the world. Russia says FOAB is 4 times more powerful than MOAB, and military analysis say it could cause massive destruction on a scale never before seen. Until these recent rumors, the FOAB had never been used in combat, but that does not mean that thermobaric weapons are strangers to conflict. Thermobaric munitions can be traced back to World War II when they were initially used by the German army, but they were not widely developed until the 1960s when the US used them in Vietnam. As said earlier, the US also used them in Afghanistan, first in 2001 to try to destroy Al-Qaeda forces hiding in the caves of the Tora Bora Mountains, and again in 2017 against Islamic State forces. Russia used them in its war in Chechnya in 1999 and was condemned by Human Rights Watch for doing so. Russian-made thermobaric weapons were also reportedly used in the Syrian civil war by the regime of Bashar al-Assad. What's unique about the current situation is the possibility of it now being used in urban residential cities. As you can imagine, the pressure from such a bomb would cause internal organs to be ruptured, eardrums to be perforated, and it would cause the puncture of lungs, and not just to people in the immediate surroundings of the blast as the wave continues to expand outwards. And so what is felt is a tremendous pressure wave and an immediate suction within microseconds. A first responder to such a blast would have to look at this from basically 3 different zones. Zone 1, directly under the blast, Zone 2, more in the periphery, and Zone 3 at the extreme periphery. And as you can imagine, the chance of survival goes up as you go out of the center of this bomb. In Zone 1, most of the people are going to succumb to their injuries almost immediately. Sometimes, based on where the bodies are, there may not be bodies because they would be completely incinerated. Those in Zone 2 will likely survive the initial blast, but will have severe burns. In addition to the burns that you can see on the outside of the body, the inside organs may be ruptured because of the pressure wave that has gone in and out. The pressure wave is going to be most brutal on organs that contain air, particularly the lungs and the GI tract. When the lungs are ruptured, it can result in a pneumothorax or a lung collapse, which can quickly become fatal. On the other hand, perforation of the GI tract, which contains bacteria, might slowly leak out into the sterile area around it and cause severe infections that can later cause the patients to die of their injuries from septic shock. People in these Zone 2 areas could actually be saved if enough initial medical resources were employed early on, but as is the case with a lot of these situations involving multiple traumas and not having enough medical resources, unfortunately, it's likely that those in Zone 2 will also succumb to their injuries, and unfortunately, it's a very painful demise. The paper at the beginning recommends the administration of pain medication in this case if there are no other medical resources. In Zone 3, there actually may be a good chance of survival. There may have been projectiles that they may have been shielded from. If they're wearing bulletproof vests or Kevlar jackets, they may not get hit by shrapnel or bullets, but they're not going to be protected from the pressure wave. The pressure wave is still going to hit them, just not as severely as those in Zones 1 and 2. So, as long as this is well known, you can take these people to the hospital to be cared for, but you need to make sure that the internal organs are not harboring an infection or a rupture that could later cause bleeding down the road. As long as hemorrhaging can be controlled and the patients can be watched carefully, people in Zone 3 can oftentimes be saved. So, the question is, how can you tell whether or not someone may have internal injuries that you can't see from the pressure waves? One way of doing that is by examining the victim's eardrums. If you look into their eardrums and see that they're perforated or there is blood behind the eardrum, that's usually a good sign that there has also been some damage to internal organs. While there are no international laws specifically prohibiting the use of thermobaric munitions, fuel-air explosive devices, or vacuum bombs against military targets, their use against civilian populations may be banned by the United Nations Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons. If a country uses such weapons to target the civilian population in built-up areas, schools, or hospitals, it can also be convicted of a war crime under the Hague Conventions of 1899 and 1907. However, to date, all past attempts to regulate or restrict thermobaric weapons have failed. Russia has neither confirmed nor denied that they are using thermobaric munitions with their TOS-1A in Ukraine, but International Criminal Court prosecutor Karim Khan has said his court will investigate possible war crimes in Ukraine. What do you think about these rumors, though? Is it possible Russia is using their FOA bomb in Ukraine, or at least something similar, or is it just all bogus accusations? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.